Yeah, what's going on, folks? And welcome to another episode of Tactical Cooking with Chef Noir. And today, I got a little treat for you because today, we're going to make a Sig Sauer MCX-Spear LT. Now, the very first ingredient you're gonna need for this is gonna be a Gen 1 MCX. So, you take a little Gen 1 MCX and put it in the bowl. And then, for the next one, we're gonna need a Generation 2 MCX Rattler. Take that, you put it in the bowl. And then last and finally, we have an MCX Virtus. You take the Virtus and you put that in the bowl too. And then you take it and you mix it in the bowl. You mix, then pop it in the oven for like 10 seconds. And then, voila. The Sig Sauer MCX-Spear LT.
Before you finish watching this video, a word from our sponsor. Have you ever thought about making a living in the firearms industry? If you enjoy gun repair, ballistics, and learning about firearms, Sonoran Desert Institute's online courses might just be a good fit for you. To find out more, visit sdi.edu or call 480-999-4767 today. The MCX-Spear LT, or Spear Light, is Sig Sauer's latest generation of their MCX line. It's basically Sig admitting the previous MCX, while awesome, was ridiculously heavy. The Spear LT comes in a multitude of calibers and barrel lengths. The version my good friends at Ray's Hardware and Sporting Goods let me use for this video is the 11.5-inch version chambered in 223556, and it's the one I cared about the most. The Spear LT is what I like to call the anti-AR, because it manages to have its own identity while still having the smell of an AR-15, which is just a long way of saying it feels the same and different at the same time. I think my gray MCX Virtus chambered in 300 Blackout is one of the sexiest looking modern rifle platforms on the market, and I think this Spear LT in 11.5 inches is the second sexiest. Something about the sun-kissed bronze color is so satisfying to look at. I don't care what anyone tells me. Sig set out to create a sexy rifle first and everything else second. I love the AR-15 platform and always will, but this MCX Spear platform, along with the original MCX and the Virtus, are simply aesthetically refreshing. And I only have to suspend my disbelief a little bit to admit that it does kind of sort of look as close to a spear as any other rifle I've ever seen. Do with that information what you will. In a lot of ways, Sig is like the Mercedes of the gun world, and the MCX Spear is their S-Class. Mercedes loves to shove every feature known to man into their S-Class series of cars, and Sig did the same thing with the Spear LT. It's almost annoying how many features are on this thing. Adjustable short stroke piston system, a lower so ambidextrous, I'm starting to question its sexuality. The rail has more M-lock slots than the number of unread DMs in most IG models inbox. The fact that you can just change the barrel on a whim is just disrespectful. And let us not forget that there isn't a buffer tube, so the stock or brace can fold.
So how does it shoot? Well, so the recoil impulse on this gun kind of gives me 45. You know, like a 9, snappy, 45, kind of like a dull thud. I think the combination of the piston system in this gun, along with the length of the gas system in this gun, it lends itself to giving you this nice, slight shove back instead of this kind of like poppy snappiness. Now, that's all subjective, whether you like the pop or you like the thud, whatever the case. I'm not judging. However, on this, I love the recoil impulse because it allows me to be predictable with the gun. I'm not gonna say it shoots soft. That wouldn't be a correct or fair statement. It's not a soft shooting gun from the standpoint that it's like, oh my gosh, it's so pleasurable. However, what it does do is goes back exactly where I placed the gun the first time without me having to overemphasize it. So I'm on the gun, it's easy. And I'm running an LPVO on this. So this LPVO is gonna communicate a lot of my movement to me, and it doesn't really bother me much because the ability of the recoil impulse to go back exactly where it was before is very consistent. Now, what really, really makes me love shooting this gun is the trigger. This is probably the best single stage trigger I've ever felt in any rifle platform that is stock configured. I don't like single stage triggers because I don't necessarily know what they're going to do when they're going to do it. I know that sounds weird, but I like having that initial take up on a two-stage trigger so I know any more pressure past this point, this gun's going off. With single stage triggers, it's just that. It's either gonna creep a little bit, not creep at all, or it's gonna go off. Something about this trigger, and I think a lot of it is, it has a relatively high bite point. Not to the point of discomfort, but enough for me to say, it's at this point, as soon as I break it, it's going off exactly the way I want it to. And then it's coming right back to my finger. So even when I break it and I do a reset, it isn't that far back. There's a lot of gap, as you can see, between the trigger and the rear of this particular gun. So at this point, this gun resets, boom, right there, on it, boom, right there, on it. So it makes the trigger way more predictable for me versus a single stage that goes all the way back, gotta ride it forward, and then I have this tendency to want to slack it out. But there's no slack because it's a single stage. Whereas this, with its high bite point, I know exactly, boom, that's the bite, boom, on it. So the trigger in combination with the kind of predictable thud makes this rifle from a shooting standpoint lovely because it allows me to run the gun super fast, like just really, 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 really fast in a way that is incredibly exciting to me. It's just, and then here, this, like, and you can just, dump. That's what gives you the giggles. When the rifle just kind of naturally in your hand, just feels like it just shoots so lovely. And then the balance aspect of the rifle as well. Here, now, the odds of you having to shoot one-handed is slim to none, but it demonstrates how balanced the rifle is and thus adds to the shooting pleasure of the rifle because I don't have to compensate for an imbalance, which is weird because this rifle is not very balanced. And what I mean by that is it tends to be front heavy. Because it tends to be front heavy, that means anything you put on this rail is gonna throw the balance of the rifle off. So I have a tendency to want to put a lot of things on the front of the gun. However, when I do that, I start to not like the gun very much because the weight starts to add up on the front, throws the balance off, and then thus doesn't feel the same. So this is a gun that makes me want to run it slick. And also I think the balancing component has to do with this loophole LVPO, which adds a little more weight to the back of the gun, thus allowing the gun to balance out a little bit more because there isn't that much going on back here. But other than that, from a shooting perspective, chef's kiss.
Visually, I want to change the grips on this rifle so bad, but I won't because the grips feel so damn good. This is one of the best feeling stock grips on a rifle I've felt in a long while. There's Picatinny rails on the top of the rail and M-lock slots on the side and bottom, so I have a lot of grip where my thumb is, but very little grip anywhere else on the grip. However, it is a slim rail, so you can wrap your entire hand around the rail and get a very good purchase. Now let's talk about the weight of this rifle. The LT in Spear LT is supposed to mean lightweight. Sure, if you only put a red dot on it, this rifle and nothing else is relatively light. But the moment you put anything on the front, whether it be a light, laser, or hell, even iron sights, the Spear LT starts showing its BBW real quick. Which is frustrating because the look of the Spear LT makes you want to put all kinds of LARPing gadgetry on it. But as soon as you do, it makes it annoyingly front heavy. And all of the great things about it mean nothing because it just becomes too front heavy. At about $2,500 in store, the Spear LT is for people who have a bunch of AR-15s, essentially. People who don't own an AR-15 won't really be able to appreciate the uniqueness of the Spear LT, but for those people who have a good number of AR-15s already, they're in a position to appreciate the difference of the Spear LT while loving the familiarities to their ARs. I'm not saying someone who doesn't own an AR-15 shouldn't buy the Spear LT. I'm just saying the people who have a few or even one AR-15 will find a higher level of appreciation for the Spear LT's uniqueness. It's one of those rifles that won't necessarily make you get rid of your AR and run the Spear LT exclusively, but Everyone with an AR-15 on some level is going to feel the need to own the Spear LT just because it's an anti-AR-15 rifle that if you had to use it in place of an AR-15, you wouldn't be that mad about it. Matter of fact, you might like it more. Maybe. You know how frightening it is to think about what happens in the moments before, during, and even days after having to use your gun in self-defense? When you first start carrying a gun for protection, it can be a very scary and nerve-wracking experience, especially if you haven't gotten the education and training you need to feel confident. I've been there myself, hoping I never have to go through a self-defense shooting, which is why I'm a member of the USCCA. As a USCCA member, you can eliminate some of the stress of carrying a gun for protection by accessing the amazing wealth of firearm education, training, and current state-specific gun laws of your state or states you may travel to. This can help you be prepared for or hopefully even avoid a self-defense incident. As a bonus, members automatically become insured on the self-defense liability insurance policy purchased by and issued to the USCCA. Click below to learn more. Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment to let me know what you think of the video, then subscribing to the channel. But most importantly, click that bell symbol. For products featured in this video, click the links in the description.